Cruise news time. Well, cruises have restarted in the U.S. on a small scale, and they've already hit a snag. And the cruisers on the West Coast, they're kind of feisty. I got that. I got a lot more cruise news stories. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Lido Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news updates. Well, I've got 5 cruise news stories for you today, and they're all really interesting, so I would encourage you to watch the whole video. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. A couple nights ago, we were doing our live show, and people started to come in the chat, blowing up the chat, saying that they just received an email from Royal Caribbean that there would be a big announcement on Wednesday, an announcement we'd been waiting for. That was the language of the email, and I got excited. I got excited as somebody that looks at cruising every day. When you tell me that you got an announcement that we have all been waiting for, that's exciting. Okay, so I got excited. I speculated. I was wrong in my speculations, and it came out that they would now, the big announcement, if you haven't heard it, for the first time in 10 years, Royal Caribbean will be putting a cruise ship in Los Angeles, leaving out of the port of Los Angeles. Now, that's great news for people that are on the West Coast. 10 years with no Royal ship. If you wanted to get on the Royal product, you had to travel. And I even said in my update video yesterday, this is exciting news for people on the West Coast. But I did say it with some level of disdain because I was promised an announcement that I'd been waiting for, and honestly, and it's not because I live here in Florida, it doesn't matter where I live, honestly, telling me about a new cruise port in 2022 would not have been on my list of announcements I have been waiting for. That is not to diminish the excitement for the West Coast. I'm not very territorial. I moved to Florida to live near family, and fortunately in Florida there's a bunch of cruise ports, but I have been committed to that cruise game driving. I have driven from North Carolina to Galveston, Texas. I've driven from North Carolina to Mobile, Alabama. I've driven to Florida many times, driving every time. A full day's worth of driving to go cruising, so I am not unsympathetic to people that have to drive to go cruising. Certainly, I do live on the East Coast, but I'm not trying to make it about that. So, well, I think I might have done a bad job of giving the West Coast their moment, but let's all take a moment and celebrate the great news that for the first time in 10 years, there will be a Royal offering on the West Coast. That truly is exciting news. But I don't know that that's exciting news for all cruisers. That's what I felt like we got promised, and that's why I was disappointed. And for those of you people that wouldn't allow me to be disappointed and wanted to chastise me because I didn't do cartwheels for the West Coast, I apologize. Now, interestingly, we did just get an email from Celebrity telling us that there would be super fantastic news released about Celebrity tomorrow. And the email goes on to say it's going to be the most exciting news of 2021 so far. I got no expectations for this, okay? So I'm not gonna hype it up. I'm not gonna speculate. You know, I've been level set. All right, are we good? Are we good? I'm not territorial about any of this stuff. I'm just a dude that lives in Florida that loves cruising everywhere. Like, I want all cruisers to be happy. Oh yeah, and while we're at it, while I'm so sorry, I forgot yesterday was St. Patrick's Day also. I got people telling me about that. So sorry. I don't know what day it is. Been locked down for a year. I'm going COVID crazy. Not really. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Story number 2 revolves around Alaska. Holland America announcing that they are extending their pause of operations throughout June from Seattle to Alaska. They've been holding on to these cruisings. There's a couple things going on right now. In the Congress of the United States, a bill was introduced by 2 senators called the Alaska Tourism Recovery Act. And the whole goal was to allow cruises from the United States, continental United States, Seattle, Washington, to Alaska, bypassing Canada. What I understand right now is that act didn't make it into the big bill that just got passed, and so it's still there, and it's not really even marked for a vote. And so the wheels of the legislature are churning slow around that piece of legislation. And a lot of people think that that's maybe the last hope for Alaska in 2021. And in the face of that, Holland America, well, I don't know if Holland America is dragging along with that case, but in the face of nothing changing when it comes to the ability to sail to Alaska, Holland America has canceled their June 2021 sailings from Seattle to Alaska. Now, I did mention a few days ago about the restart of American Cruise Lines and the impending restart of the American Queen Steamboat Company. Both of those companies currently have ships on the water here in the United States. And maybe I too bolsterously said the CDC can't really push those two cruise lines around. Well, American Queen Steamboat Company's got some challenges. I'm going to tell you about that, but let me stick in a couple more news stories. First off, a positive cruise news story coming out of the shipyards at Fincantieri in Malfalcone, Italy. The Discovery Princess, the sixth ship in Princess's Royal class of cruise ships, has floated out at the shipyard. Now, we've talked about it a little bit before. There's a lot of steps when it comes to building a ship. When a ship is initially constructed, it's constructed in a dry dock until it can withstand being in water. And the float out is essentially when they flood that dry dock and now the ship is in water. And so that's what's happening over there with the Discovery Princess, well on its way to being a completed cruise ship scheduled for delivery to Princess Cruises, part of the Carnival Corporation, next year. That's exciting. Another cruise ship. You know, we talked a lot in 2020 about cruise ships that left the fleet. Well, now we're already starting to see cruise ships returning to the fleet, larger, more efficient, newer cruise ships to replace the older capacity that was removed as older, smaller cruise ships were sold off by many cruise lines. Now we've got more exciting news coming out of the UK. Fred Olsen Cruise Lines has announced their own version of the scenic cruise around the UK for this summer of the Cruise to Nowhere. Similar to what we've seen from other cruise lines, they will be starting their UK sailings in July. And of course, the big questions: is this the next cruise line to announce sailings to begin with a vaccine mandate? Well, no, even though that's been the trend, that's not what's happening at this time. I did some digging on the FAQs over on Fred Olsen. The very first question, will I need to be fully vaccinated before cruising with you this summer? Basically what they're saying is the government's global task force is expected to deliver an update on the 12th of April 2021. We are awaiting further guidance from this update and any updates from the governments of the destinations we'll be visiting before we confirm any final requirements for their guests. So initially, as they've announced these cruises on Fred Olsen for the UK, no vaccine mandate. The other common questions: will there be testing prior to cruising? Yes, there will be a requirement for a COVID test. Will there be mask on board? Again, they're deferring to the latest guidance from the government. And so at the time of sailing, if there is a mask recommendation from the government, then they will do masking, but they're not saying for sure that that's going to happen. So Fred Olsen taking a little more cautious approach, or a little more loose approach, whichever way you want to look at it. They're saying we don't know what the is until we know what the is. And so they're not being prescriptive with vaccines and masks, but testing, they're definitely saying. I think testing is going to be a big component for the first year of cruising, because if you can do your best to eliminate the virus from the cruise ship with testing, and we know that testing's not perfect, then you'll have a better chance of sailing. I think that's the strategy. We'll have to see whether or not that plays out. But big news for the UK, another option for summertime sailings, this time with Fred Olsen. Now let's talk about how the restart of cruising in the US has already hit a speed bump. Quickly, if you enjoyed the cruise news today, if you like staying up to date on everything going on in cruising, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel with the notification bell on. Be a part of this virtual community, and while you're there, please hit the like button. Thank you in advance. So we talked about it a few days ago. America Cruise Line last Saturday restarted cruising here in America with one of their small cruise ships. They took 76 passengers. They jumped on here in Florida and they did a coastal cruise up to South Carolina. Now, another American cruise company, the American Queen Steamboat Company, started their cruises again on the 15th, which was Monday, started their cruises again on Monday with a chartered cruise from New Orleans to Memphis. And in addition to that chartered cruise, American Queen Steamboat Company has a big christening coming up on the 21st of their latest paddle wheel boat, the American Countess. The plan, as it was, to christen the Countess on the 21st in New Orleans and then begin regular cruises up and down the Mississippi and other American waterways on the American Countess. Well, we've got breaking news. The American Countess has been shut down by the CDC and the Coast Guard from starting its inaugural cruises on the 22nd. So when I read that story, I was kind of confused. The CDC, they really don't have jurisdiction on smaller vessels with like 250 or less, or 249 less crew and passengers, total individuals. How can they be stepping in to stop this cruise? Well, as I dug into the story, it was a little eye-opening. I found the rub. So American Queen Steamboat Company, they filed for their Coast Guard inspection certificate, U.S. Coast Guard inspection certificate. On that certificate, they put that they would be cruising with 249 individuals or less, and the Coast Guard approved that certificate. However, at some point along the way, it got revoked by the CDC. So here's the deal. Even though American Queen Steamboat Company filed a certificate with U.S. Coast Guard saying that they would have no more than 249 crew and passengers on board, the American Countess can actually hold 245 passengers and 110 crew members. So I'm certainly not saying that American Queen Steamboat Company was trying to game the system, but the ship that they offered up for sailing clearly holds more than 250 individuals, regardless of what they put down they would be sailing with. And to me, that seems that's where they got the attention of the CDC. So this is an interesting thing. It does go back to the jurisdiction of the CDC. The rules that they have in place are for vessels that can carry 250 passengers or more, which certainly the American Countess can. And it does seem like American Queen Steamboat Company did their best to say that we're not going to sail with that many people, and even filed their certificate with less than that many people. But either way, at this moment, the inaugural cruise of the American Countess will not happen. They are going forward with the christening ceremony, but struggling to figure out what they can do to get this cruise ship sailing. They bet you they felt like they were at the finish line when they got the approval from the U.S. Coast Guard. But here, in the final hours before the cruise, really shut down by the CDC. Boom! That's your cruise news. Time to sound off. Second reminder to hit the like button and watch this video. Tony for Lido Loca. Until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.